Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. Texas A&M is fresh off their best season yet under Jimbo Fisher, going 9-1 in 2020 with an Orange Bowl victory over North Carolina. Expectations are now very, very high down in College Station, where many believe this is the year where Jimbo Fisher finally gets the Aggies to the college football playoff. Texas A&M comes in at number 7 in our early Gridiron Expert Top 25, and with the talent that the Aggies return and with the schedule that the Aggies are up against, this is the year that they need to break through and get to the college football playoff. You look at Texas A&M, guys. They return 12 starters total, 6 on offense, 6 on defense. And yes, they lose a handful of key starters on both sides of the ball, namely Kellen Mond, their quarterback, and 3 offensive linemen. But Haynes King, very highly touted recruit, a lot of great things being said about him, more than likely going to win that starting job in College Station. He comes in at quarterback. They have Isaiah Spiller, one of the best running backs, not just in the SEC, but I'd rank him up there as one of the better running backs in the country. And then Jimbo Fisher recently came out and said that he was going to, and Texas A&M was going to, kick Alabama's ass this season. To which Nick Saban said, in golf? This is the year, guys, where Texas A&M has to take advantage of the talent that they have and the schedule that they have. They were so close to making the college football playoff last year. Many believe that A&M should have gotten into the playoff over the likes of maybe Ohio State or Notre Dame. But this is the year where they actually have to make it happen, because when you look at this schedule, guys, it is so favorable. So favorable. Let's go ahead and just start up here at the top with Kent State, their season opener. I would venture to say, and again, we're not making any predictions out here. We're going to make predictions on every team later on, including Texas A&M. But I would venture to say that many would have Texas A&M starting 5-0. Many would have the Aggies going 5-0 to start their season right before they face off against Alabama. Their toughest games, I would say, are Colorado and maybe Arkansas to round out September. That game, of course, being played in Arlington. And of course, if you know that Arkansas and Texas A&M had very close matchups in recent years, especially when they face off in Arlington. It's a 42-31 victory for the Aggies last year, but that was in College Station. There's just something about playing in Jerry's world that gets the best out of both of these two teams. But Colorado, a team that should not be overlooked, an interesting road game, non-conference road game, former Big 12 matchup we should add. That's just an intriguing one. And Colorado, with their rushing attack, one that nearly won the Pac-12 South last year, is going to give A&M a bit of an early test to really see what this team's made of and give some of these new pieces a good test before they really start to hit the bulk of SEC play. But up until this Alabama game on the 9th, they don't really face anything too daunting, too challenging. A&M, in theory, is going to be the better team in their first 5 games. So let's say they start 5-0. That brings up Alabama on October 9th. And that's the big game. That is the biggest game on Texas A&M's schedule, because if they want to beat Alabama, if Jimbo Fisher finally wants to get over the hump, if a former assistant of Nick Saban's is going to defeat him, this is the year to do it, and Jimbo Fisher will be the one to do it. 5-0, potential top 5 matchup. They're hosting the game in College Station. Alabama obviously going through a lot of changes of their own. Yes, they do that every year, but some people think for some reason this year will be different. It will be very interesting to see how Bryce Young does pan out for the Crimson Tide. But this game at College Station, sold out crowd, hopefully in theory, everything lines up perfectly for this to be an A&M victory. Again, we're not saying it is going to be, but if Jimbo Fisher finally wants to win, if Texas A&M finally wants to beat Alabama, it has to be this year. I don't think it would be next year when the game goes back to Tuscaloosa, and who knows what we're going to be dealing with in 2023. The way the schedule lines up, the way the talent lines up, getting them at home, everything combined there, this is it. That's the big game. And that's the one that could really put A&M at the top of the SEC West standings. If they win this, I tell you what, guys, not only would they be at the top of the SEC West standings, not only would they be legitimate playoff contenders, if A&M is 5-0 and beats Alabama on October 9th, they will be the number 1 team in the country when they face Missouri on October 16th. Plain and simple. I'll say that right now. They will be the number 1 team in the country if they are 6-0 going into Missouri. And that, again, we've seen time and time again where A&M has gotten so close to that point. They've gotten into the top 5, top 6, just top 10 period. but they aren't able to get over that hump, that one difficult game, beating the greatest coach of all time in Nick Saban. That's the big game. That's the big one. After Alabama, they face Missouri and South Carolina. Another reason this schedule was so favorable for Texas A&M, those were the two teams they drew out of the East. They didn't draw Georgia. They didn't draw Florida. They drew Missouri and South Carolina. And obviously, the Tigers are going to be the more difficult of the two. Not only is it on the road, but Eli Drinkwitz and the Tigers surprised a lot of people last year, getting that 5-5 mark, getting to 500, playing a lot better than people thought. So that, to me, a bit of a trap game for Texas A&M here, because if they're high off the win of Alabama, obviously there is such a thing as a letdown game. If they're down on themselves, beat up after the loss against Alabama, they could get caught napping, could get caught not being fully motivated, and drop a game maybe they shouldn't against the Tigers in Columbia. So they have to be very careful for this Missouri game sandwiched in between Alabama and South Carolina. That's the one I'd be more concerned about out of the two Eastern teams. South Carolina after that, their bye week, and then after that, it is the key stretch. The key stretch for Texas A&M comes in the entire month of November. Forget Prairie View A&M. It's the three conference games, obviously. Auburn, Ole Miss, LSU, and unfortunately at Ole Miss and at LSU. They draw Auburn off of a bye week. They get Auburn after their week of rest. That's beneficial. It's in College Station. They beat the Tigers 31-20 last year, and we really don't know what to expect from Auburn in 2021. Brand new head coach in Brian Harsin. Bo Nix returns at quarterback. Tank Bigsby's back at running back. That's a big get for them, and obviously a big, will be the workhorse, I'd say, for this Auburn offense in 2021. But is Auburn going to be a 8-9 win team, or are they going to be a team that's struggling to make the postseason? That's really what we don't know. So much unknown down on the plains. They get Auburn after a bye week. Probably doesn't scare people as much as Ole Miss and LSU. At Ole Miss, A&M didn't play the Rebels last year due to COVID. Even though they're in the same division, they wasn't able to work out. So they got this Ole Miss game here, which could feature one of the best offenses in the country, with Lane Kiffin and Matt Corral, at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium in Oxford. I wouldn't rule that out as a trap game either. If I were Texas A&M, I'd be a little concerned about that. Ole Miss will certainly test the Aggies' defense on November 13th. It's going to be a very, very interesting game, a very tough game for the Aggies. Prairie View A&M, and then at LSU, a team they only beat 20-7 last year. And let's remember, last year was a down year for the Tigers. LSU didn't have an identity on offense. They were having quarterback issues left and right. Miles Brennan goes down. That was TJ Finley. Didn't pan out. Max Johnson ended up playing very well down the stretch, led him to that upset victory over Florida. And now it's a battle between Miles Brennan and Max Johnson. More than likely, the nod will be given to Brennan. And we know that LSU is going to bounce back this year. At least many are expecting them to, including ourselves. Offense should be a lot better. They're going to have one of the better secondaries in the entire SEC. Might be up there as one of the top 20, 25 secondaries in the country. Season finale, potential night game in Death Valley. A&M has to watch out for this game at LSU. And that's, again, you can see why it's such a key stretch here. Because, again, it's not the first 5 games. I can't even say that Mississippi State to South Carolina or Alabama to Auburn is a stretch here, because really Alabama is the only game where A&M might not be favored. It's the biggest game and the one they might not be favored in. It's these final 4 games, with 2 of those 4, and really 2 of the 3 conference games, the ones that matter the most, being on the road. That's what concerns me for Texas A&M. And let me add this in there as an extra factor here. Let's hypothetically say that A&M, we'll play both scenarios here. Let's say they beat Alabama. Well, more than likely they're 6-0, 7-0, 8-0, 9-0, let's say they're 9-0 going into Ole Miss. Well, one loss could ruin everything for them. One loss could ruin everything for them. They would still own the tiebreaker over Alabama. That's beneficial, but what about LSU? Are they in the running for the West Championship? Could we see a 3-way tie between Texas A&M, LSU, and Alabama? Possibly. Who knows? Could they lose to Ole Miss and LSU and throw away the SEC West even though they beat the Crimson Tide? And then let's say they lose to Alabama, but they keep running the table, so they only have 1 loss. Well, 1 loss to Alabama isn't that bad. You are still in playoff contention. But you lose 1 more time in this Final 4 stretch, whether it's against Ole Miss, LSU, or even Auburn. 1 more loss, and you're done. Your playoff hopes are done. 1 loss, you have a chance. 2 losses, you don't. And that's why Ole Miss and LSU are very scary on A&M's schedule, and why these final 4 games, the entire month of November, is going to be so crucial for Texas A&M if, in fact, they take care of business up until that point. And by taking care of business, we mean either running the table undefeated or only having 1 loss, and that loss coming to Alabama. That's going to be the key. The FPI projects the Aggies to go 9-3. Wouldn't be a bad year, wouldn't be horrible, but by many would be disappointing because, again, 9-3 might get you to another New Year's Six bowl game. Say they win that to 10-win season, back-to-back New Year's Six bowl victories, don't have too much to frown about. But when you look at how great the schedule lined up, obviously that's something that's very difficult to do, to get a favorable schedule like that in the SEC. When you look at that, when you look at the talent, when you look at the competition surrounding you as well, what the state of the SEC is like, 9-3, A&M fans couldn't help but wonder what could have been. Jimbo Fisher has high expectations. College Station has high expectations. We have high expectations. Will the Aggies live up to them? So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Hit that notification button. We've got 6 schedule previews left. You don't know which team's coming next, so do not miss out on that. And if you hit that bell, if you get those notifications, you're not going to miss out on any of our prediction videos for every single team. I promise you're not going to miss those either. Make sure to check out everything down in the description as well. Exclusive college football content for you guys, not just for this offseason, but for the entirety of the regular season as well. So do not miss out on that. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.